Well, welcome to the Path Forward for Tuesday, May 5th. This will be a recorded show today. Going to move to doing just live shows on Thursdays with the roundtable. Some admin notes today. I've been working for those of you on the old channel and those of you that have moved to the new channel. I've been doing a lot more posts on Substack. Really, my focus has been on Substack for the past several days, doing videos on, radios and putting mountain radios in the vehicles. And this is, again, from the average person's perspective, not, super radio guy. I've got enough of those radio guys around that can help with the programming and everything else as questions arise. But I'm approaching this from I'm establishing comms in a post grid down situation. And first of all, here's a handheld radio versus a vehicle mounted radio versus HF. Here's what it looks like in the vehicle. Here's some mounting options. Here's the solutions that I have in my vehicles. Yesterday, I went over both my Bronco and my Expedition and walked through the bullet point mounting solutions that I have in both. And I can tell you that a lot of good feedback on both those videos. But that's where my focus has been on doing. I'm trying to do at least 1 or 2 videos a week that walk through practical guides for what you're actually going to have to deal with and face. So I'll finish up with radios. I was out there a few minutes ago getting ready to run the antenna through the antenna and the wiring for a vehicle mounted radio through the passenger side firewall. And I'll see if I can video that and get that sorted for you. But that's where my head's at. Those are the things I've been working on for the past several weeks. And again, if you want, if you have questions on any of the stuff I'm doing, great. This is not my domain, but I'm forcing myself to learn this stuff and kind of bringing the audience along with me. It's different. Radios are different in the military. It's a whole different deal. Ham radios they're a necessity and grid down. But you need to be legally set up before you go and start talking on the radio. Mainly, you just need to figure out how to use the radios and what frequencies work in your area. Whether it's GMRS, VHF. I can tell you GMRS works better with around buildings and around obstacles. VHF is a better line of sight. HF is better for long distance. FRS is better short distance, especially short distance line of sight. So there's advantages and disadvantages to all three. I have HF, VHF, UHF, FRS, and GMRS, and all those bands are in the, it's in the UHF band, which is GMRS. So anyway, long story short, I'm approaching this from, grid down. I need to get to somewhere. Most of the stuff I have is set up for monitoring, not for actually talking to people, unless I'm actually on the move with people and I'm going to talk to them. Yesterday, I encourage you to go check out the video that I did on the bullet point mounting yesterday in the expedition. I talked through and, show you what it looks like to mount CB radio with a first responder or a scanner, as well as with a handheld or and I'll set up the mic and do another video tomorrow for the base station once I get the antenna set up. But those are my projects right now that I'm working on. Some other things folks have asked me about shirts. So I have the One Team One Fight t-shirt, the One Team One Fight polo shirt. The polos are embroidered, so they're going to be a little bit more expensive. Those are $44. I know it's pricey, but they're embroidered. So and it's the same gray with gold that the rest of the group is sent out to pretty much everybody in the round table now. Some of the guys have the t-shirts, some of the guys have the polo. I've got both available. If you want one, just DM me, send me a direct message either in Telegram or in Twitter or on Substack, and I'll send you the payment details and then I'll get them shipped out. I still have one to ship. I've been waiting for two others to decide what they're going to do so I can do one shipment all at the same time. Just drop them all off. Anyway, and then I also have the mugs. That's the mug. So, and it's set up like we're actually doing the show. So anyway, but these are $20. If you want one, just let me know. I got a bunch of those left. So yeah, that's the admin notes. But if you want to find me, I'm on Substack, and this is Path Forward 25. That's where I've been spent a lot of my time. And right now my focus is not on breaking down the political events or breaking down the current events. There's enough of that going on, enough people that are doing that to where it's just overkill. What I'm really focused on is building an actionable set of videos so people can actually take them, download them, and use them for something meaningful to prepare for whatever's coming. And on that vein, the topic of the show is that they're releasing information on UFOs. So there's a video circulating around on Twitter right now about the release of information related to aliens and UFOs is supposedly imminent, and that they've been going around to several pastors and several clerics here in the U.S. and telling them that, preemptively, that we're going to release information that says that these are interdimensional beings. Please help us keep people, on the reservation, humma humma. And notice how I didn't say this is disclosure. This is not disclosure. This is a release of information. If it's real, and I should have started with that. If it's real, if this is true, then this is a release of information. This is not any kind of disclosure. Disclosure is when somebody releases information that is completely outside of control, and it makes it to the public consciousness in a way that can't be managed by the establishment. And case in point on that, Seth Rich. When Seth Rich was killed, that information literally flooded out to the internet, and they couldn't do anything about it. And came out both in the Q drops, and it came out, and again, it could have been released in the Q drops, and that could have been an information release. Who knows? But that was one of the nodes that it came out on, and it just blew up. So anyway, so there's that going on. And I'll just say it this way. My personal belief is I don't care what they tell us. Everything they're telling us is distraction away from either the debacle that is Iran, the Epstein files, the fact that DOJ refuses to prosecute anyone for anything unless they're law-abiding citizens. And then there's the whole idea of this is what the government knows, so they're just going to release this information, and Trump's wants to release this information. Hama hama. I don't know how much of it I'm going to buy. I don't know how much I believe right now. I don't know how much I'm gonna believe post release. I don't know how much I'm going to believe when they provide proof, whatever the hell that is. These are the same people that are protecting everybody on the Epstein list. These are the same people that have spent their better part of the last 2 decades lying to you about climate change. The same people that are grifting off of US tax dollars. The same people that kept Biden and Obama in office knowing that they were both Manchurian candidates. That's the same group of people that are releasing this information. And there's no reason for them to disclose this information right now. Again, it comes back to why now? Why are we seeing this now? Why is this a priority right now? I'll tell you why. Because it's a massive distraction. That's why. And they need a distraction. The other thing that's swirling around with this is disclosure around captured alien vehicles and reverse engineering of captured alien vehicles. Not sure I buy that. Not sure not sure I believe there's going to be any disclosure or any release of information around it. But and there's a video of Bob Lazar he's basically you could think he's on the round table because his answer is they're not going to release anything. They're not going to tell you anything you don't know. There's nothing new in there. The government probably doesn't even know the real truth. They know partial truth. They're going to give you the partial truth, which is still BS. So I think I'm with him on this one. And I'm thinking about changing the name from the Roundtable to the Black Pill Express because the last several times we've done roundtables, it's been the Black Pill Express. So, and of course you have Flake Fighter, which, put gas in the tank. It's like the guy in my group. How do I get her off the brakes? You don't. So anyway, I'm being facetious because, he and I have been trading texts for the last couple of days about air travel. So that's the other thing. Let me finish out my thought on this information release. I think this, like everything else, is an illusion. I think it's a bunch of BS. I don't think we're going to get anything meaningful if it actually does come to pass. I think it's going to be more. It's just like the Epstein disclosure. Here's a binder full of BS. Doesn't really tell you anything. Doesn't really prove anything. Doesn't really implicate anyone. But here you go. And if you go, I've been watching reruns of Stargate SG-1, and it's interesting because I was in season 6, and if you don't know anything about the show, in season 5, Michael Shanks is killed on a planet, and Jonas Quinn comes in and takes over for Michael Shanks, and of course there was a big fan backlash, blah blah blah. Even though Michael Shanks is an arrogant SOB. Anyway, but they brought him back in season 7. During season 6, they do an episode where they had this alien device that could basically turn you into a shapeshifter, and you can be anybody that is in the system, like has already been, how do I say it, already been cloned, and you can become that person. But the episode is about all of these oligarchs, these defense industrial complex oligarchs that are taking all of this technology that's coming through, coming from the Stargate and the Stargate program, and they're trying to build their fortunes and control all the information and control all of the advancements so they can put them into their own products and make trillions off them. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Um, and it's what's funny is that episode was done in like 2002. Season 6 would have been, so it was 97. So it would have been 2003 when that episode came out. And I think what's amazing about it is it's so timely to today and what we're seeing today. Because here's the reality. The defense industrial complex, they have no vested interest to release information related to any technology they've gleaned from anything captured from outer space. They just don't. And they don't even have an interest to share that with the federal government unless they absolutely have to. And if I was running a secret space program, it would be completely divorced from any of the government apparatus, including DOD. It would be completely separate. Why? Because I wouldn't want any bureaucrats involved in it. Because you never look, you get bureaucrats involved, you get politicians involved, and then it becomes about power and influence. It stops being about defending the planet or exploring the solar system, and it becomes about politics. It becomes about power. And DC is all about power and influence. It's nothing else. It has DC. In fact, you could nuke DC right now, and the rest of the country would level out because all of the toxicity would be switched to the states, and then it would be the state governments that would be just as toxic. So there's no vested interest for any of these defense contractors, all the way back to EG&G and some of the others that were a part of the first programs. There's no vested interest for them to share any of that technology, especially the really high-tech stuff, with the federal government. And what's interesting about the information releases, if it's real, is that there's been all of these different both videos and stories and Substacks about different technologies that were passed around to all these different politicians, oligarchs, etc., that allowed them to see into the future, see what paths were open to them so they could select the right and most fruitful path for them. Now, I don't know if that technology exists, but if it does, then it would explain how the timeline shifted several times. Because it has. Our timeline shifted several times. And I was told years and years ago, I was working a classified program, and a buddy of mine was on the other side. He was on the science side. And he basically said that, the technology we're working on is something that's going to revolutionize the way that we do planning, right? Okay, whatever that means. Years later, I heard, I've seen it's been in a couple of different instantiations now. It's come in, I think Health Rangers talked about it. I think a few others have talked about it in the UFO community. And basically, it's a technology that allows you to look into the future and to see multiple timelines. And that would make a lot of sense, right? That years and years ago, the elite had the ability to choose different timelines and which timeline was going to be beneficial. I also heard that at a certain point in time, that capability stopped for whatever reason, and they couldn't see past a certain date. But that would explain a lot if they had that technology available to them, and they could literally look into the future and war game who was going to be the biggest threat to them and take those threats out, and which emerging technology would be the biggest threat. And you would think that they would have used that technology to look forward to see if AI and robotics were going to be a threat, and where and how and who, right? But again, the world is run by psychopaths and the Epstein class, which are all pedophiles. So they're all sociopaths or psychopaths. And we've left the store to the autistic kids that don't have any moral compass. That's essentially what we've done. And you give that technology, put that in their hands, and I can see the technology being used for varying and various reasons, and it explains a lot, right? Um, and then you can see other things that they could use to affect the timeline. The ability to, and evidently, space flight, um, interdimensional or interstellar transportation or interstellar travel, time travel, gravity, etc. They're all tied together. It's all one big equation that allows you to do all of them at the same time because they're all tied together. Um, which would be a different kind of physics for us to, physics problem to solve. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the elite had that technology and exploited that technology in several ways in order to um, manipulate the future, manipulate the last 50 years. I mean, it's hard to say, right? So all that said, we'll see what they actually, if there's actually an information release. We'll see if there's actual disclosure. We'll see if there's actually something that is revolutionary or stunning to the population. That this At this point, nothing would surprise me. Nothing. What's going to be interesting is what do they offer up for proof, and who are they going to push forward to say, yeah, this is real. But I guarantee you that, or at least my bet is that it's going to be somebody who talked to a dude, or a dude who talked to somebody, or a dude who talked to the aliens that was on a special program, blah, blah, blah. It's a dude who knows a dude who talked to a dude who knew this dude, who interacted with some dudes, who interacted with aliens. Yeah, that's how it's going to go. It's never direct proof, right? Like, here's a blue chicken. Here's a gray alien. It's never that, right? And I would love for them to parade out a bunch of aliens into the Oval Office and see Trump step all over himself, trying to communicate with them when they're all, telepathic. That would be epic. First of all, it would be silent, right? Because they'd all be, mind fucking him while they walked in the door. And then he'd, babble some stupid words. And that would be the press conference. That would be priceless because it would be reminiscent of Sam Altman and Larry Ellison in the Oval Office on day 2. So it just cracks me up that the whole shtick is just it's just nonsense. But anyway, all that said, that's the buzz right now. That's the narrative I see building right now. I've stopped paying attention to Iran because to me, Iran is a mechanism for famine. And they have no vested interest to shut that down. Yesterday they hit some ships. They sent some drones out. They blew some stuff up in UAE. Who knows who did it? Could have been Mossad, CIA, could have been us, could have been the Iranians. Today, supposedly we lost 2 KC-135s over the Gulf. Who knows what's real? And I've stopped paying attention to it because the bigger thing is the famine that they're architecting out of it, which should start hitting us in the next week or so. So we'll see. So my focus has been on trying to build videos that people can action and leverage to actually do things to prepare for shortages, because they're going to last years, folks. It's not going to last just a couple of weeks. And if you haven't been following the price of beef and the price, so 2 things with beef right now. Supposedly Bill Gates is in whatever company he's invested in has perfected the ticks that cause the allergic reaction to livestock, specifically beef and or meat. And wherever these labs are, supposedly they're finding boxes of baby ticks all over the countryside, which are affecting livestock, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know about you, but I think that's a crime against humanity. And I would think that, local sheriff's office would want to go figure out what's going on and where that's coming from. But again, today they came out, the DOJ came out today and said they won't be prosecuting Anthony Fauci for lying to Congress. Okay, well, so we knew that Big Pharma was going to win this one. We'll see if they actually go after him for crimes against humanity for all of the other things with remdesivir, with the COVID jabs, the lies to the public, because I'm pretty sure there's no statute of limitations on treason and crimes against humanity. Just saying. So if they're smart and they're not going after him for lying to Congress, great, great. Arrest the guy for crimes against humanity. So we'll see. More to follow on that. Anyway, I'm working some other aspects, some interviews. I'm going to get those going this afternoon. My advice to everybody right now: take everything you see with the 48-hour rule, see how things develop, see what truths come out of it, see what we're told, see what's real, and again, remember, everybody's doing information warfare right now. The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, the CIA, Mossad, they're all doing propaganda. They're all doing information warfare. So don't believe anything you see. Don't take anything at face value because it's usually BS. Keep focused on the things that matter right now. What's real, what's tangible, what you can prove. Again, stay out of the social media space and the emotional space so you don't get hijacked and wrapped up in their narratives. The daily narratives are where they want you to keep your attention. I've been watching the pole shift stuff and what Ben Davidson is putting out. I'm taking what Jack Cruz has to say with a grain of salt. Like, he's going after Ben Davidson because he hasn't been in, a university and he hasn't been peer reviewed or whatever his story is. Yeah, whatever, Jack. You were Mr. Bitcoin. How's Bitcoin doing right now? Yeah. So, Bitcoin's in the toilet. So, yeah, I'm going to listen to you about pole shift. Okay. The one thing I can say about Ben Davidson, everybody's going to have a critic. There's always going to be a critic of everything, every single source. But at least the guy's doing daily videos talking about what's going on in the sun, what's going on with solar wind, and he's referencing actual documents and peer-reviewed studies that reference pole shift and what his hypothesis is. Is he probably 100% right? No, no one is. I mean, this pole shift stuff, we're reading the tea leaves. You have one part of the pole shift community that is completely enamored with the idea of this crustal displacement, where the crust of the planet is fluid, and as the center moves, the crust will displace and move, and the continents will be somewhere else, and then there's going to be the ocean slosh, which is going to cover most of the continents, and then some of the planet will be underwater, part of the continents will be underwater, other parts, like Antarctica, will be on the equator. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. And from what I understand, the moon has only been in orbit around the Earth for a certain period of time. So there's going to be effects from the gravitational pull of the moon on what happens on the planet. So nobody really knows for sure what that's going to look like when it actually happens. And do I want to be underground in a dark hole when all that happens? No. And the other thing too is, I watched a video. I wished I would have kept it. Anyways, on X, and this guy was talking about how all of the tech oligarchs, they have such a myopic view of natural disaster and societal unrest. And he's like, these guys, and I've said this before, it was great to hear the validation, by the way, but he's like, these guys think that their security guards are just going to fly away from their families down to New Zealand, down to their bunker, and they're going to just sit there and protect this guy where their families are getting killed. Because they haven't figured out that the security guards aren't going to need them once they get there. Once you pop the door open, they don't need you. You're just overhead. Hey, thanks for the bunker. Bang. See you later. And he makes the case that I make, right? Is that most of these security apparatus around all these rich people, that's going to evaporate because they're going to realize they don't need them. So I wouldn't want to be underground. That's all I'm saying. So I'll be back tomorrow with another video on Substack. Again, the Path Forward 25. If you hit me if you want any of the swag, and allow some patience because I don't always see the messages right away. And I'll be back Thursday night with the roundtable. Until then, God bless. One team, one fight.